Now, the families of 29 people killed in the 1994 Chinook helicopter crash are seeking a judicial review of the government's decision not to hold a public inquiry. I'm pleased to say joining me now is solicitor Mark Stevens from law firm Howard Kennedy and Andy Tobias, whose father, Lieutenant Colonel John Tobias, was killed tragically in that crash at the age of 41. Thanks so much for joining us here. Andy, I'd love to start with you because this is a personal journey, isn't it? From the age of 8 years old, you've known and you've lived with the details that what happened to your father potentially sealed away for 100 years. What has that been like?
Yeah, we only found out very recently when we watched the documentary that the documents had been locked and sealed away for 100 years. And I think I speak for all the families here that we were absolutely furious to hear that news, because all it's done is create a huge vacuum of suspicion regarding what's in those documents and what does it mean about our fathers and our brothers who died on that crash. So we've been pushing really hard now to get a campaign group going where we can seek a judge-led public inquiry to get access to those documents and check on the airworthiness of the Chinook Mark II helicopter. And obviously, the Ministry of Defence have refused that. So it's been a difficult journey and very hard on myself, my family, and all the families involved.
Andy, do you feel like you're being denied the truth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not normal practice to lock away documents for 100 years. And the Ministry of Defence didn't even notify the families that they were doing this. So it feels very deceitful. It feels very unfair. And you don't lock stuff away unless there's something you really don't want people to know. So yes, we're very troubled by that, and we're trying our hardest to get access to those documents to see what's in them.
Mark, let's bring you in now. How do you challenge the legality that the government's locking away evidence for longer than a lifetime?
Yeah, I mean, it's a horrible thing to do. And what's interesting is that it wasn't 100 years to begin with. It was just 15 years. And then it was extended to 30 years. And at the 30th year, they then extended it again to 100 years. And the real vital point about this case, the injustice of this case, is that this particular Chinook Mark II helicopter had been grounded across the fleet because of systemic problems in the aircraft. The pilots asked to fly a different airworthy Chinook on the night and were refused. And that one pilot even increased his life insurance. It was obviously that concerning. And afterwards, the pilots were blamed. And then 17 years later, it became clear it wasn't the pilots. But what this has done, particularly the government's hiding these documents away for 100 years, has prompted people to come forward who have been burdened by the concerns. And they go right up to people like John Major, who was Prime Minister at the time, Malcolm Rifkind, who was the Minister of Defence at the time, who both say they feel that they were misled by the MOD, or at least not told the full truth. Liam Fox, a more subsequent Defence Secretary, has said that the last inquiry didn't get to the bottom of why these men were ordered to get on a known to be unairworthy aircraft. And for that reason, it's obvious that these families are entitled to know the truth, to know why their loved ones, whilst on active service, were put in harm's way.
And that leads me to my final question to Mark. To Andy, rather. What do you want to see happen next? What are you calling for?
Us as families, all we're after is truth and transparency about the circumstances of that crash. Why my father boarded an aircraft that we know was unairworthy. We've got documents that state that the Ministry of Defence knew it was unairworthy pre and post the crash. So we're only after the truth, and it's about time that the Prime Minister stands up, does the right thing, provides those families this duty of candor, as he promised in PMQs only a couple of weeks ago when Saoirse Eastwood asked him that question. So truth and transparency, so we can really get to the bottom of what's in those documents.
OK, we'll leave it there. Great to hear from Mark Tobias and also Mark Stevens on that. Thank you.